What's up, guys? This is comiXalliance. This is our first podcast, so we're going to go ahead and start it off calling it Issue Zero. So, Chris, if you want to lead off with what we're about.
Yeah, sure. So we created comiXalliance to be able to share our loves and interests in the comic book world, and also everything geeky. That includes video games, trading cards, novels, pretty much anything that covers all of that. So some of the stuff that you'll be expecting from us in future episodes is just topics that we'd love to talk about with you guys and share with you guys, whether it be collecting, TV shows, movies, all of that fun entertainment. So just tune in every episode, and we'll definitely have a fun time with you guys. Can't wait.
Okay, and to start, I'm just going to go ahead and just do a little introduction. So, my name's Joe. I'm part of comiXalliance, of course. I'm one of the original three of us who started it. So, my interests mainly include video games, of course, comics, obviously. Really into music most of my life. A lot of like punk metal, stemming from like black metal, death metal, speed metal, old like punk from the 70s, 80s, even into like the 90s. And that's mostly it. I mean, of course, I love some movies, mainly horror movies, comedies. Big fan of stand up as well. So that's it for me.
Hi, I'm Shelby. I'm one of the co-creators of comiXalliance. I mostly love video games all my life, ever since I was about 4 and up until now. Comic collecting, obviously, and music as well. That's about it.
All right. Next up is me. I'm also one of the co-creators for comiXalliance, and I've been getting into collecting since I was a kid. I started off with comic books, trading cards, got into music after that very heavily. Just like Joe, I definitely love metal, all types of metal. I used to be in a metal band and play up and down LA and Hollywood shows at the Roxy, Whiskey A Go Go, to just to name a few venues. I definitely love collecting comic books. As you can tell, I literally just started about a year going hardcore into it. Aside from that, before I did used to collect single issues, which were really fun. I also got into collecting Magic the Gathering. That's one of my main loves for tabletop games, aside from D&D. I also love playing video games. I used to have a huge video game collection, but stopped collecting and wanted to focus my collection, since I have limited space as any collector has. So I decided to go with the comic book medium out of all the stuff that I could collect. So that's where we're at now, and that's why we started this channel as well. That way we could share our collections with you and our love for the medium.
True. I saw Chris's band play. I don't know if you remember that. It was when we first started working together. It's probably one of the first times I actually really like knew you, or like got to know you, because I believe you had met me when I was at my job prior. I ended up working with you without even realizing it, and then about like maybe a week or two later, you had a show, and Russell and I went to go see you, our boss. If anybody's wondering, that was one of the coolest bosses I've ever had.
Yeah, for real. Yeah, that was what, about over 10 years ago now. So we've been friends for a really long time. I don't have too many friends like that I've kept for so long, especially that shared a lot of the same interests as I do. So it's great. And then I just met Shelby last year. Just talking about comic books. I didn't know she collected comic books when I met her at first. So it was really great to see another female collecting comic books as well, because most of the comic book collectors majority of them are male. So
yeah, that's That seems to be the bulk. I know that might sound bad, but let's be
Yeah.
real. The majority of the people who obsess over this the way we do are just other guys.
Yep. Exactly. But
I know Shelby. Sorry to cut you off, Chris. I know
There you go.
Shelby because we actually work together as well. So I've worked with both of you, but we worked together. 2019 is when we started. And yeah, we got along really well as friends from that point, and now we're here.
That's great.
So kind of want to touch on what to expect, and that's another one, Chris. I want to leave you to go and start off with.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, we're gonna have different topics that we'll be talking about in the future episodes. We'll definitely try to keep it within the comic book world, but we'll also be talking about maybe musical interests, anything geeky
Video games.
regarding video games, trading cards, maybe D&D, some of that other stuff too. We haven't completely talked about it yet, but maybe we could do some of our big hauls through this platform in the future, if that's something you guys want to see.
Yeah.
Also maybe even doing reviews of like popular series or our favorite series that we'd like to share with you guys. But yeah, everything geeky, we'll definitely be covering it in this platform. So I guess we'll follow up with why we love comics or what got us into it. So
Sorry, I just want
if you want to
interject real quick. Was that Bailey that just made that sound?
It's her snoring.
Okay, sorry. While you were talking, I started laughing. I wasn't sure if you could tell, but our dog
did.
just started snoring really loud. I don't know if the mic picked it up or not.
I didn't hear it, so I think it's
Oh, okay.
fine.
But
So
yeah,
yeah, so the next topic that we'll be going over is why we love comics, or what got us into comic books. So I'll give it back to you, Joe.
Okay, so pretty much what got me into comics was when I was a kid, I had a neighbor who was really into comic collecting. His name was Robert. He was a friend of my parents, and I was a little kid. I was maybe like 7, 8 years old, and he used to just bring me issues of Famous Monster magazine and comic books. I was so young, I had no idea what I was reading. He just used to bring them, and I would read them, and I thought it was really cool, but I didn't really understand what I was into. I didn't understand that these Famous Monsters magazines were horror magazines. I just like looking at the pictures, reading some of the stuff that I understood, but they were random issues, so they didn't really, like, he wasn't bringing me like runs and story arcs. He was just, here, read this. And that was kind of what started it. And then when I got a little older, it was Wolverine number 50, the one with the claw marks through it. One of my friends had brought that to school, and I just thought it was the most amazing thing I'd ever seen. Read it probably 100 times, if I can, even remember that much. Like, it was a ton. Like, I just kept reading it and just flipping through it, loved it. And then as I got a little bit older, my friend Ryan, who I believe both of you guys have met, I know Shelby's met him. He had a Spider-Man 2099 a couple years later, and I still wasn't like fully into collecting, but I enjoyed reading, and that's kind of what got me into Spider-Man. Was reading. Oddly enough, 2099 is the one that got me into Spider-Man. So let's fast forward a couple of years. I was working at Borders in the cafe, and some of the guys I had worked with, who I'm no longer friends with, that's a whole other story. But they had wanted to go to Golden Apple Comics in LA, so I went with them, and I just grabbed some random stuff. I remember grabbing like Kick-Ass, like the first 4 issues, and then just a couple things, flipped through them, read them a little bit, and then I moved out, sold some stuff off, whatever. It was kind of not really like amassing large collections at this point. And then, as both of you guys have heard the story millions of times, I've pretty much lost everything I own at some point, including those. So I kind of fell out of like collecting. I just kind of just bought what I wanted, but I wasn't trying to, amass large collections of things, not trying to like, get rare copies of things. And then it wasn't until last year during the pandemic, a comic store that was local to me had opened up. I'm sorry, let me back up. A little bit before the pandemic, we were having a little get together with some coworkers, and we had to stop to get a gift. And I'd stopped at the comic book store down the street from me, and I grabbed a couple issues of X-23. And I had meant to read them. They just sat for a little bit, and then now let's fast forward to the pandemic. A friend of mine, he'd invited me to go to the comic book store because they were open. He just wanted something to do. Probably irresponsible of me to go out during this time, but I've mostly been good, and I've gotten better with it since. So we're hanging out, whatever, and I just picked up a couple trades, and didn't really think much into it. Didn't think I was going to get into collecting. Bought like a mystery box that had some random issues, and it was like a chance to win a I forgot which issue it was, but it was an old Spider-Man issue that was a CGC graded. So I was like, cool, I'll buy it. Didn't win, of course, unfortunately, but so that kind of is what kicked it off as like a full-on adult, like in recent years into collecting. And I've just become like overly fascinated with it, that just looking back at all the stuff that I've missed from that, Wolverine 50 to today, and one really cool thing that I thought happened in that time was the Wolverine #1 that had come out right around this time also had a variant that was a throwback to that Wolverine 50. And of course I had to buy that. I think I paid like $10 for it. So it was pretty awesome to get. But that's pretty much how I kind of got back into collecting and got into comic books again. So with that, I'm going to kick it off to you, Shelby.
Okay, so my love for comics was mostly just from this past year, 2020, during this whole pandemic, because we got invited to a friend who was just like, hey, let's go to a comic book store. And I'm like, oh, all right, yeah, sure, whatever. Didn't think much of it, didn't think I would really get into it, but just had Joe had mentioned he bought mystery boxes. And I'm like, all right, well, I might as well try and win something nice for once. Of course, never did, but what had caught my attention in that mystery box was mostly the indies. And I thought, okay, well, maybe I'll try out a little bit of indie books first, considering that mostly everybody wants to read or collect Marvel, DC. So I thought, why not indies? So the indies in that comic were actually really interesting. There was one called Wicked Things where I was just like, oh my God, this is actually really interesting. So I was just like, okay, I'll get into that series, start small. And I did. And then I found out Black Cat had her own series. And I was just like, that's perfect, because Black Cat was my favorite character since I've seen her in one of the Spider-Man games on PlayStation 2, I want to say. And I was just so excited. So I got her series, and ever since then, Joe and I have been kind of exploring other comic book stores. And that's pretty much it. And now I'm like at what, like 300 comics owned in this year alone. And that's pretty much what it is. Just a small start, which is with those mystery boxes and those indies.
Those mystery boxes really did us in the first couple
Yeah,
months.
yeah.
Helped bulk up our collection quite a bit.
Exactly. And how it started with me. Most of the time, I was just thinking like, this is going to get really expensive, and yeah.
And it has.
And it has
very
been getting really
expensive.
expensive.
You know what though? Absolutely worth it.
Oh yeah, most
It's-
definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
Just to touch on something before we jump to you, Chris. My boss at work the other day, we were talking, and somebody had mentioned, because our distribution warehouse is in Texas, and everything going on with Texas right now, excuse me, with them being out of power and all that, he was just like, man, I couldn't imagine like not having power and not knowing like what to do all day, because to be real, people were stuck on TV, stuck on video games. Not that I'm not, I love, like I've said, I absolutely love video games. I love music. All that requires power. And my first thought was just like, buy some comic books. Like you don't need a power source to read these things. And man, like there's some things like I could read over and over and over now. Like I try to not reread things because I like, to spread my time out to new things mostly. But in that event, like I could see myself just rereading things like the King in Black series. Now that I'm almost done with Middle West, I want to start it over already and reread it and see what I've missed. No, so I just kind of wanted to touch on that, very expensive, but when you look at the side of things, it has other value that if we were ever in this situation, like I don't need a power source to enjoy, all this money I've spent. But how you said you had a very large collection of video games. Imagine if we had no power for a month. You'd be sitting on some awesome paperweights.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. Anyway, not to get off track. Now it's your turn, Chris. Go and
Oh no, you're good.
go ahead
Okay.
and give us some background on you.
Sure. So hey guys, I'm Winchris from comiXalliance. I'm also one of the co-creators for comiXalliance. So it all started for me back in 1992. I first just got to the States. I was actually born here, but my parents brought me over to the Philippines to live with my grandparents for about 5.5, 6 years. So I didn't get to the States till about 1992. Very difficult for me to learn how to speak English. So the best thing that I could do at that time was watch TV or watch cartoons to improve my vocabulary. And what had started around that time was the X-Men animated series, which was great. And also the Spider-Man animated series about a year later, including the Batman animated series as well. I was watching those 3 cartoons back to back, and I also jumped on to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Transformers, which was amazing. But they were showing those a little bit earlier in the morning, so it was hard for me to wake up in the morning to catch those new episodes. So as I was watching all of those cartoons, I later on found out that they had these comic book magazines, which were a lot better than the children's books that Scholastic was putting out. I just loved reading books that had pictures in them because I guess my imagination wasn't as great as a kid growing up just yet until I started reading those. So I decided to pick up a pack of comics from Toys R Us. They used to sell these bundles of random issues. So in that pack, from what I remember, it had one of the Spawn issues, a very early on. I think it was maybe Spawn issue 12 or 15. It had the Death of Superman. It had Maximum Carnage, which was one of my top ones. And this is probably the main story arc that really got me into comic book collecting. This story and combination with the video game that I played for years really broke me to start wanting to collect comic books. So the closest comic book store that I used to go to back in, I think 1994, was Amazing Comics in Long Beach. That's where I started buying all my comic books, and I knew that my aunt wanted to get a monthly pull for me, so she put me on a subscription for, I believe, Peter Parker's Spider-Man. So she paid for the whole year, and I was basically just getting that in the mail every month. It was great. It was something to look forward to every month. I would literally reread the book so many times, since I was limited to what I could buy or get a hold of regarding comic books. Fast forward through the 90s, I kind of stopped collecting towards the end of the 90s, just because after Image came out, there was a big boom, and I didn't know what to collect from them. They looked really cool. They had a bunch of superstar comic book artists that started, like Todd McFarlane, Rob Liefeld, Jim Lee, just to name a few, which was amazing. But like I said, I stopped collecting around that time and got heavily into skateboarding and video games and Magic the Gathering. So after that, after I believe it wasn't until after high school, and back in 2006, which was when my friends introduced me to a new bunch of new writers that were writing comic books at that time, which the events that were out at that time were Avengers Disassembled, House of M, Civil War, Planet Hulk, and Secret Invasion. I think that's the latest around that time that the comic book series was out. So I started collecting the trade paperback route just because it was a lot easier to collect. It was a lot cheaper. You get a handful of issues into one trade paperback for really cheap. So I did that for about up until 2008 or 9, and then took a pause on that collecting as well, and got very heavily into video game collecting. I believe I collected mainly Super Nintendo. What was that other one?
PS1.
But PS1 was another big one.
PS2.
And PS2. Yeah, a lot of the PlayStation games. So I found myself, just not to go off topic, but Joe was very responsible for my addiction when it came to anything collecting. Honestly, this guy was like a connoisseur for like.
Thanks.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Joe was very responsible of like how I started collecting and why I was collecting. Before I used to just get whatever. Oh, go ahead.
This started when we worked together, because I was already so deep into video game collecting, I didn't know what to do. I feel like I just pushed it onto you.
Oh yeah, which was great.
Okay, sorry, go on.
Oh no, you're good. Yeah, so I ended up spending a shit ton of money on video games that I never played or never experienced, just from wanting to collect it, like the thrill of the hunt, basically. And I love that aspect of it. That was so much fun.
We used to go video game hunting all the time.
All the time, yeah. Like at least, I don't know, 3 to 5 times a week. It was ridiculous.
Well, together, maybe once or twice a month, maybe 3 times a month.
Yeah.
We would end up like kind of what we did when we first started what's it called, collecting comics at the same time this time. We would send pictures of what we'd pick up. We'd always just like see each other at work or text each other, be like, oh, I just found this and this and this, or I hit up like this place today, like they don't have anything, I just spent like an hour there and like found absolutely nothing. And it was an obsession.
Yeah, definitely. And that obsession still carries over. So
yeah.
And that was a really great time collecting comic books, and it kind of taught me like how to collect now. So when I got into comic books, my collection was a little more focused, as opposed to being very spread out and just collecting anything and everything. So where was I going with that? So after video game collecting, I spent probably like around $3 to $4 grand into it, and ended up selling it off back in 2015 or 2016. Ended up getting close to about $8 grand for it. So it definitely bought me some vacation time, and put that money towards a hobby that I really wanted to fund, which ended up being comic books. And I thought about it really hard. Out of all the entertainment that I could have or start collecting, I broke it down to movies, TV shows, video games, and comic books and novels. Out of all that stuff, I decided to go with comic books, just because that was probably one of my first favorite hobbies that I started doing when I was a kid. And everything else, I don't mind doing it digitally. So but comic books got to be hard copy. So and just getting up to date with how I got back into it. I kind of started at the end of 2019, but didn't get very heavily invested until the beginning of the pandemic, which was in 2020. And the funny thing is, so I used to collect my comic books from Amazing Comics growing up. And the year I decided to finally get back into comic book collecting very heavily, a Amazing Comics store opened up very close to where I live, and they just opened up last year as well. So I'm like, oh, that's totally meant to be. And it was great too, because once I started collecting, I hit up Joe. We haven't talked in a while, and we're just trying to figure out like, oh, what have you been up to nowadays? And we both instinctively said that we started collecting comic books, and I'm like, oh, no way! Like I just started collecting too. So that kind of like sparked us to hang out more often again, especially during the pandemic. It got us to go out at least a few times a week, trying to collect comic books again and share our love for the medium, for each other as well.
Look at Shelby's face. Look at Shelby's face.
But again, I blame Joe again for getting me heavily invested into another format that I told myself I'm not gonna get heavily into, because it just takes up more space. I can't, display single issues a lot easier compared to the collected editions. But I did see the thrill and the fun of the hunt, and just checking out single issue covers and whatnot, and looking forward to what's new coming out, as opposed to waiting for a collected edition of that series that I want to check out. So
I remember, sorry to cut you off again. We were talking about the Donny Cates Thor run, and I think we were up to maybe issue 7 or 8 in the run. And I was just like, hey, like, do you own any of this? Like, are you collecting it? And you're like, no, I'm just gonna wait till like the trades come out. I was like, are you sure? Like, this is a really good run. And I was like, yeah, I'll wait. Maybe 4 days later, Chris texts me and he's just like, hey, do you have extra copies of issues like 2, 4, and 5 or whatever? I don't remember the exact numbers. And I was just like, no, why? Turned out he started collecting the single issues of that.
Yep.
And that's kind of where I knew you had fully strayed from the collected editions into floppies. Not to say you still don't buy trades and omnis, but you were at that point like amassing large amounts of floppies.
Yeah, and it's funny that you say that too, because I think the first or second time we went out comic book hunting, I ended up picking up the complete collection of Middle West from the comic store in Fullerton. So
they had. She's the one who called you out.
Yeah, he totally got me on that. So
we were talking to Funky at Comic Book Hideout in Fullerton. I'm not gonna plug a lot of comic stores, but I do want to definitely throw some love to that place. If you guys are in Southern California, check out Comic Book Hideout. Awesome place. That aside, the two of us were talking to Funky, and Chris had asked him something about Middle West, and he pointed him in the general area where it was. And we're just talking, and Shelby looks over and she sees Chris look back at her with this like guilty look on his face, like a dog he just caught digging through the bathroom trash can.
Yeah, pretty much.
With this giant stack of Middle West comics sitting, and he's still flipping through, staring at her. And then I think she starts laughing, and then Funky and I look over, and then we start laughing, and he's just like, what? And
I was digging through those boxes like a rabid animal, and just pulling out all the issues. I'm like, oh, like, is this how many issues is this whole series? I'll take everything.
But every first print, I don't even know if they did second prints, but I know you bought all first prints, and then you bought a few like limited variants for some of the issues, right?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. And you spent a lot of money that day. I won't say how much, but I know you spent a lot of money.
Yeah, I'll say I think I also bought the Absolute Carnage Omnibus, and also a one per store variant for Ice Cream Man.
Yes,
So
the quarantine edition.
yeah, it was a
That's
foil
nice.
edition, and I ended up spending at least over 300. So
All right, you said it, not me.
one shot. Yeah.
I
So
still need to
that
borrow
was so
that
much fun.
Absolute Carnage.
Oh yeah, it's
There's some
great.
stuff in there I want to read that I haven't found.
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
that,
So
sorry,
go
go ahead.
go ahead, Shelby.
No, just with that thick stack that was on top of the other comics, I was just like, oh, maybe he's just pulling those out, making sure he's not missing anything, like just as if they were just in the way, but I didn't realize that you were holding on to them and you were actually buying all those comics.
Yep.
That was a big stack.
It was that guilty look that gave it away, right?
Yeah, and I'm
Yeah,
like,
pretty much.
wait a
Like at
second.
first, you're just like, is he just like holding those to the side? And then that look just said it all. Like,
Yeah, like
yeah, you caught me.
I'm like, oh, he must be moving those out of the way so he can dig a little bit more. No. Well,
Yep,
it
it's
wasn't.
either it's go big or go home. So
Yeah,
You
I
definitely
went
went
big
big.
and I went home. Yeah, for sure.
yeah, you went big and went home.
Yeah.
Best of both worlds.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
so
right.
so that was last year in about I think June or August or something when we started doing that. So I've been nonstop ever since. I even started creating I started a pull list at Amazing Comics with over 20 titles already. So I'm still collecting collected editions and omnibus and whatnot. So I'm also just collecting all that stuff right now.
Must be nice.
At least this time, we finally was able to start a platform to share all of that stuff with you guys. I'll plug that in at towards the end of the episode, and we just started our podcast, which is great. So I hope you guys enjoy this. So that's pretty much about me and why I love comics and what got me into it and where I am at currently with my collection. So to go into the next topic that we'll be talking about and sharing with you guys our opinions is the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So back to you, Joe.
So for the MCU, just first off, I want to start with let's go over what's everybody's favorite movie. Or I'm sorry, let's not just go favorite. Let's go top three.
Top three
three
sounds good.
movies. Doesn't have to be from any phase, even leading into the current phase that's going on. Even if you don't want to touch on just a single movie and you want to include something like WandaVision, that's fine. So for me, oh man, I'd have to say Spider-Man Homecoming for sure. I never thought I would have said this one, but it was because of Shelby. I ended up watching it and just absolutely loving it. Would be Thor Ragnarok. That movie
Nice.
is so good, like so
It's so much
ridiculous.
fun.
Yes, it's like I feel like it's not to say like it's following any specific comic book, or any specific arc that has actually been featured on pages, but to me, it feels like a comic book has come to life, with the ridiculousness and like just the stuff that happens in there. Like it doesn't feel like just like a movie that happens to have superheroes. It feels like they took the idea of a comic out of the pages and put it into a movie. That's the first one from the MCU I really got that feeling from. So I'd have to say that, and then
Since you said that, you got to read. You have to read Planet Hulk because it definitely takes some scenes from that comic book into
I
that.
know, trust me. I feel ashamed that I haven't finished Planet Hulk. I read the prelude.
Nice. I'm excited for you, man. Like that book is so good.
Yeah, I'm not a huge Hulk fan, oddly enough. That
I wasn't either
Ragnarok,
until I read that.
Yeah, like, excuse me, Thor Ragnarok is literally like a Hulk and Thor movie at some point.
Yeah.
And so for me to not be, don't get me wrong, I don't dislike Hulk. I don't hate Hulk. I'm just not a big Hulk fan. Like there are way more characters that I love.
Yeah.
I did love the prelude, to the Planet Hulk. And, I love him in that movie. I love him in the whole MCU, don't get me wrong, except for, what's his name? The Fight Club guy. Why am I drawing a blank? The guy who played Hulk in the standalone movie for part of the MCU.
Isn't his name starts with N?
Why am I drawing a blank?
Ed Norton.
There we go.
There we go.
Norton.
Yeah.
How could I not remember that? So
yeah.
Not that movie, although I love Edward Norton.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm not a huge Hulk fan. So the fact that I really like that movie, I don't know, maybe I should just stop what I'm reading and focus on Planet Hulk, but we'll get to that another time.
Yeah.
So those two, and then the third movie, that's a tough one. I'd have to say maybe Civil War.
Mhm.
Because let's be real, it's titled Captain America, but it's an Avengers movie.
Yeah, basically.
Well, it's another Avengers movie, and it's the
Definitely.
first time we see Spider-Man. So it automatically it goes up
Yeah.
some points because of Spider-Man.
Oh
for
yeah,
me.
definitely.
If you guys haven't figured out, I absolutely love Spider-Man more than life itself. So I'm sure Shelby can attest to that. I'm wearing a Spider-Man shirt right now. But yeah, so those would be my top three. So Shelby, what about
Nice.
you?
Okay, not to copy you, but
She's copying me.
obviously Thor Ragnarok. I'm the one who showed him
Told you.
that. The reason why I love that movie so much is one, it has comedy, it has action, it has that connection between Hulk and Thor that you didn't really think of. Because if you think about it, there's times where they didn't really get along. There was a rough patch when they were first introduced to each other. Like,
Mm.
I can't remember which movie it was, but does anybody remember when Hulk punched Thor and Thor went flying?
That was the first Avengers,
Okay.
right? When they're in New York and the aliens
Mhm.
come,
Yeah.
and then he walks by and he punches him and he goes flying across the screen.
Yeah.
I believe that I want to say that was the first Avengers movie.
And well, yeah. So, and although they fought into this one, you have to remember that Hulk doesn't remember much. All we know is that he just disappears and he lands on this planet, and Thor finds him. And I don't know, something about that movie is just excellent, and the way their relationship was throughout the whole thing was also really well. I love the dialogue between them, and how when he comes back into Bruce Banner,
Oh yeah.
when he's just freaking out the entire time, he's like, "Oh my God, I was Hulk the entire time, and if I turn one more time, I'm out." And Thor's like, "Let's do it," and he's just like, "No, what are you doing?" And okay, so that's enough about that one. I don't want to get too much into it because I can talk about it forever.
We can have a whole episode dedicated to
Oh
Thor
my
Ragnarok.
I love Thor Ragnarok. Don't get like hella music, Thor and just everything. Second, Spider-Man Far From Home.
Far From Home
Mhm.
Yeah,
with Night Monkey.
Night Monkey.
Mhm.
Yes.
I love
Night
that
Monkey.
character.
That was the best part of the movie.
That was a good one. If you think about it, you don't really believe Mysterio would be like a good Marvel character, or even like or portrayed into a movie, but honestly, that was really well.
Like,
I like how
he's
Jake
cool in the
Gyllenhaal.
issues. I'm sorry, like he's cool. I'm sorry, he's cool in the comics, but to be brought to life, or in the video games even, but brought to life on the
Mm.
screen is what you're saying.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
you wouldn't think they could actually portray him as well as they did.
Exactly, and they
Okay.
did, and Jake Gyllenhaal did an excellent job. And at first, I was a little bit iffy about that. I was like, Jake Gyllenhaal as a supervillain in Marvel and Spider-Man Far From Home. I don't know how I felt about that, but I was actually really well.
Mhm.
I can't wait for the third one because they definitely left on a cliffhanger.
Oh yes.
Oh,
that
yeah.
Oh my
ending.
God, they definitely left on a cliffhanger.
One of the best cliffhangers I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Definitely.
that one was
I
a really good one.
Don't know what to make of life without this next Spider-Man coming out.
Mm-hmm.
And not just because of Spider-Man, but
See,
because that cliffhanger.
Yeah.
And how his bully, I forget his bully's name, but how much he loves Spider-Man, but he just hates Peter Parker.
Oh,
Yeah.
there's a little bit of comedy in that one, but actually, but there was, if I remember correctly, there was a lot more action into it. That
yeah.
there was
Yeah, there was a ton of action.
yeah. And then as for an introduction movie to my third favorite without even a thought, Doctor Strange.
Yeah. Well, that was a
I
great
love Doctor
movie.
That was a
Strange.
great movie.
Yeah.
Doctor
was-
Strange was my favorite, and what's his name?
was
Benedict Cumberbatch
Mhm.
did really well as Stephen Strange.
We need to
Yeah, I
rewatch
can't think
that
of
movie.
anyone else.
I can't think of anyone else either. And the fact
No.
that the cape picked him, the cape was
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
And just something about him, like although it started off a little bit slow, it was fantastic. He's amazing. And Doctor Strange is my favorite character as well.
Ah, nice.
I remember a lot of people. Sorry, I keep cutting off. I love doing this. Uh, a lot of people I remember spoke bad of Doctor Strange, and I was kind of hesitant to watch it. People just kept saying it was bad, it was boring, it was this, it was that. And I remember one day, I'm a huge WoW fan for anybody wondering, like obsessive. That I didn't mention actually, but I am a huge Warcraft fan. I'm not going to go on a tangent like Corpse Grinder from Cannibal Corpse did, if anybody has seen that video. But so I remember I was playing and just doing some like just basic stuff, whatever. And I was like, oh, like I need to watch Doctor Strange. Perfect time to watch it. I kind of half pay attention to it. And after about maybe like 10, 15 minutes, I felt like I was just fully sucked into the movie. And like just one thing that I was so like always hyper focused on, this movie pulled my attention away from it because it was just so good. And I don't know, like I couldn't understand from like minutes of watching it why people would say anything bad about this movie. And I think it's the same reason why people badmouth the first Captain America. They just said like, oh, there wasn't a lot of action, and I think people have this misconception in their head that superheroes mean constant action
Right.
when it's not. I mean, Chris, I reference this all the time. Look at King in Black. There's some
Yeah.
great action scenes and some good stuff in there, but some of the dialogue between Peter and Dylan is
Yeah.
some of like
It's
the most
pretty epic.
emotional stuff, and like
Yeah.
to read, and it's just dialogue. And I won't say why they're talking, or where they're at when they're talking, but nothing like action type is going on. Like nothing exciting in terms of like a fight or a confrontation is happening.
Yeah.
And I started to realize that most of the people who are bad mouthing this movie have probably never read a comic book in their life.
Yeah, exactly.
And
or appreciate the cinematography that's done in that movie. Like it's
that's
like
something,
bending realities and stuff. Like that's insane.
Yeah.
That was like a wild ride.
And last thing to touch on that before we jump to your movies is like the Three Jokers is another idea that like there doesn't need to be action to be exciting and awesome. Like that miniseries had little to no action, and that was one of the best reads of all time. Like same with the Killing Joke.
Yeah.
I won't ruin that, but I mean I know it's years and years old, but I'm sure you understand why I know why you understand why I'm avoiding a spoiler for the Killing Joke right now. Yeah, like not a whole lot going on in terms of action, but just so good. Like dialogue makes all that. And I started to realize that with both Doctor Strange and Captain America, that's why a lot of people, had bad stuff to say about it, is they were thinking that it was supposed to be nonstop fighting. And it's not. It's the dialogue, it's the situations that's going on between these characters, and it's a lot of like build up. So that's all I wanted to throw out about that.
Nice.
So now on to you and your three favorite.
All right. For my three favorite, I'm gonna start off with Captain America: Winter Soldier. I chose that movie just because it was not that it was just action packed, but it was a great like spy movie. It was one of the only movies that had me at the edge of my seat, and by the time the whole movie finished, I was like, "That's it!" Like, I zoomed through that movie like, "Oh my god!" Like, what? It felt so fast, but it had so many great moments in that movie where it was very hard to suspect like where it was gonna take you next, and that's one of the main reasons why I loved it. And even the dialogue between Captain America and his best friend Bucky was so emotional towards the end that it definitely hit me in the feels. So and then the next movie I'll be talking about for my second best is going to be another Captain America movie, Civil War. which is basically an
Copy me
Avengers
too.
movie. Yeah. And I chose that movie specifically because it had so many wow factors and surprises. Like I think that was the first appearance of Black Panther, first appearance of
Yes.
Spider-Man.
Yes.
Both huge characters, and like the chase scenes are so well done in that movie, and even the fight scenes, like having the heroes go against each other, like that you didn't know who to side with, you know, like it
Yeah.
was very difficult to choose which side or to be on.
Like it
but
wasn't.
that
Sorry, it wasn't hero versus anti-hero. It was hero versus hero.
Yes, exactly, and the teams were definitely done very well. I read the Civil War comic book, and it doesn't completely follow the story, but the way that the Marvel movies has done their own take on it was I don't know, for me felt a little bit better. Um, but going into the third favorite movie, which is going to be Avengers. I'm drawing a blank right now.
Age of Ultron,
Avengers.
Infinity
No.
War, Endgame.
Infinity War. Infinity War was definitely it, because that was the everything building up to that movie was it. As soon as the first Avengers showed, and it showed that scene at the end where it shows the side of Thanos's face, I was like, oh my god, they're gonna do the Infinity Gauntlet saga. That's like a dream come true that I wasn't even thinking. That was and just to point out like a fun fact, I guess. When I was a kid, I actually used one of my birthday wishes to finally do superhero movies done very well in the future.
That's awesome.
That was back in 1997 when I saw a cut like a advertisement for the Spider-Man movie with
Tobey Maguire.
Tobey Maguire, and but the advertisement that I saw back then, it showed half of Spider-Man's face and the other half was Leonardo DiCaprio. I was like, what? They're gonna have him? There was like a right after, like he just finished doing Titanic, and I'm
Yeah.
like, no, like I don't want him as Peter Parker. Which thinking now, I'm like, I think he would have done well regardless, because I love that actor. But yeah, going back to that movie, Infinity War was just so action packed. It starts off and it just goes like it just starts off like really action packed already. It's very story driven. I love the way Thanos like tries to get all the gems and get him to put it together into the Infinity Gauntlet, and the struggle that the heroes have to go through and to coordinate, like, you know, how to defend our planet. That was insane. And just the ending of it definitely put so many people in tears for these characters that we loved. So yeah, those are my top three.
That's awesome. Did you not see the whole thing building up to the Infinity Saga? Or do you
I did.
mean that when you were shocked that they were actually going to, like, obviously not copy it like page for page, word for word, but they were gonna actually like touch
as
on the
soon as
exact like Infinity War, like truly like branch out, not kind of just throw it off as like another side movie, or
right,
that it was
yeah,
gonna
'cause
like it was all like coming to a head for this, and that's what you
yeah,
were shocked about.
yeah. Well, no, I was mainly shocked about when I watched the first Avengers movie. I did not expect them to go with the Infinity Saga, because it showed
Oh,
Thanos.
I'm sorry.
What's that?
Oh wait, because you said Infinity War.
Yeah, Infinity War was my favorite movie.
Yeah.
One of my top three.
Okay, because when you said that and you said you were shocked that they were doing the Infinity War. You meant like prior to actually seeing it.
Yeah, before it even
Okay.
came out.
Okay,
it
I'm
was
sorry.
the
I misunderstood you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was just talking about the end scene to the first Avengers. I was shocked when I saw Thanos' face. I was like, no way, they're gonna go with the Infinity Gauntlet saga.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure a lot of people that has never read comic books or has never heard of that saga before, and they see that guy's face, just some like weird alien looking dude. They probably weren't as excited as I was.
Yeah, just some
because I
purple
know
guy.
what's gonna. Yeah, exactly.
Some purple guy with a giant chin.
Yeah, why is everyone cheering? It's just it looks stupid.
I was cheering because it was Josh Brolin. Oh, actually, wait. Was that Josh Brolin?
I can't remember who their
'Cause-
original one was supposed to be.
Because the original actor wasn't Josh Brolin, but I don't remember. Right? That wasn't him.
I don't think
Yeah,
so.
never mind. Forget that. Forget I said anything.
Yeah, but I knew they were gonna go with that saga, but I was like, man, they're gonna be missing out on so many more teams that's supposed to be involved, like the X-Men, Fantastic Four, and all these other great superheroes in this huge battle. But regardless, the way they just had all their separate movies and put it all together in one thing, like I've never seen that done.
I liked that they tied Civil War into it. That they didn't
definitely
have to, and it was written many years apart, and they still brought it together and made it work.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously, it kind of sucks that have not seen the Punisher. Punisher has one of the best scenes in any comic in the Civil War.
Yeah.
When he kills those two guys right in front of Cap.
Oh yeah.
Like that. Not seeing I'm sorry, not Spider-Man. Oh man, the X-Men. Well, I guess Spider-Man, because Spider-Man should have been a part of this before.
Right.
Like I don't know, it was missing a lot of characters, but I feel like they still did a really good job. Kind of bringing it all together.
Yeah.
So,
and thank God for Sony. Letting them take Spider-Man to bring him into the Marvel universe. That's amazing.
Yeah, let's hope they do the same with Venom and Carnage.
Yeah, I hope so, dude. I hope they do a Maximum Carnage storyline. Like I'm so obsessed with that story.
I hope Disney and the MCU do it, not Sony.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
All right. I know this was one of the things we originally planned on, and Shelby, you could sit this one out. I don't think you're gonna. Well, I don't want to ruin King in Black for you, and you haven't finished it or really even started it. Actually, you need to get on that. And we don't have to talk too much about this, but Chris,
no worries. Yeah.
Would you rather see them do a Maximum Carnage, a whole thing about Maximum Carnage, or would you rather see them do the King in Black? But with the King in Black, it's going to include Absolute Carnage. Mm-hmm. It's going to include Venom and Silver Surfer Black.
Right. So scale wise, I would definitely go with King in Black, like hands down. But for like a single like story arc,
so like a 3-movie
Carnage.
run. Like a 3-movie run of Maximum Carnage, or like a 15-movie run that involves the whole King in Black saga.
Yeah, I mean, I would say
pick one.
Well, honestly, if they do the King in Black saga, Maximum Carnage is part of it. Like that plays a big role.
True.
I mean, not a big role, but
it's a precursor to it.
Yeah, definitely.
It's important, but with the way they've been writing stuff, they could easily make that. I don't want to call it irrelevant because it'll never be irrelevant, but they can make it not necessary to sing the movies. And obviously they're going to rewrite stuff. So
right.
They can make Absolute Carnage seem like the beginning.
Yeah. To answer your question, the obvious choice is King in Black. That would be way more epic, but just for me, nostalgically and being very biased to my favorite storyline that got me into comic books, I would love to see Maximum Carnage for sure.
How about this? Maximum Carnage is a 3-movie run, right? Or the whole King in Black saga, but it has to kick off with a 3-part Namer series.
Oh God. Me and Joe have been making so much fun of the tie-ins for Namor and how bad it is. and I'm still trying to power through to read it to see if it's gonna tie in at all with King in Black, and I'm still waiting.
If
It's
I'm
supposed to
not
be like
mistaken,
5 issues.
that and
Mhm.
was it the Union? I think we're
Yeah.
supposed to actually be Empire tie-ins, which is why they're not good. Which is why it doesn't make sense. And
Yeah.
they rebranded them as King in Black. But
Yeah,
they're now canon as King in Black because,
right.
you know, but didn't issue 4 have Namor in it?
Yeah,
It did, right? Yeah. So
yeah.
it's
They
canon.
finally introduced them. Yeah.
It's canon.
Like-
We can't change that.
Yeah, exactly. But for everyone watching, if you guys are looking for a comic book saga as probably as big as Infinity Gauntlet, I'm gonna put that out there and say it. You guys need to check out King in Black and
start
Donny
with the
Cates'
Namor
writing.
tie-ins.
Yeah.
Don't. Please don't. Skip them. Skip all of them.
Yeah, if you're looking for events that lead into it that have a better explanation into things, read the Venom run by Donny Cates and Absolute Carnage, also
Oh,
by
yeah.
Donny Cates.
And Silver
Read
Surfer
those
Black.
2 series and Silver Surfer Black. Read those and then read King in Black going into it. It's so epic.
I think jumping into King in Black, I feel like it could still be a starting point for some people. Like, you don't need to read everything. Like
Yeah,
Donny Cates did a really good job of writing it where, new fans can jump in here. Grab
Yeah.
number 1, read it. You might not understand everything. You might not understand like the intensity of the situation, but it's a good starting point. But just don't do yourself the disservice of skipping was it the first 16 issues, or no, I'm sorry, the first 12 issues
Mhm.
of Venom.
Yeah.
Then the 5 issues of Absolute Carnage.
Mhm.
And then does it start from 17 to 21
For what?
for Venom again? Because
I believe so, yeah. Because
from 13 to 15, I think, were War of the Realms tie-ins, right?
yeah,
So
which
skip
was
those.
written by a different creative team.
Yeah, so skip those unless you're reading War of the Realms, and of course read them. But jump straight to 17, and then read up to, is it 25? I think of Venom,
Yeah,
and then start with King in Black. That is the absolute best way to jump into it. And obviously you can read some of the early stuff like the Symbiote Spider-Man, the name
yeah,
titles if you really want. There's some True Believers issues that came out that introduce him, Beta Ray Bill, Black Cat. They're all those dollar issues, like they're reprints, and they introduce a lot of the characters that are going to be coming back into King in Black that we haven't seen in a while. You can always read those. Those are always fun reads of some classic comics.
yeah. And I think in future episodes, if you guys like this segment of the show, we'll try to do reading orders for specific stories or saga, just from our experiences. So if you guys do like that, just let us know, and we'll do a lot more of those shows as well.
I'm sorry, I skipped Silver Surfer Black. Where does that fit again?
That fits before King in Black series.
Do you just finish up to Venom 25 and then read Silver Surfer Black?
Yeah, you could do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, we still got to talk about Silver Surfer Black.
Yeah, that'll be on
we've
another.
both read it. Yeah, but
show,
we've never sat here and talked about it. That is, whew. I think that's an hour podcast episode on its own.
Oh yeah, for sure. Talking about each issue.
Yeah.
And it's only 5 issues
per hour. Yeah.
Yep.
That is it's a very interesting story, and I'm sure there's some people out there who would rather listen to somebody talk about it, maybe watch some videos with like recaps, because they don't want to go hunt down the issues. If you're into that, that's cool. That's fine. I get it. But this is one of those issues, or I'm sorry, one of those little mini series that the art and seeing everything drawn out and the art style that goes along with it
Yeah,
makes it
by
have
Trad
a
Moore.
much. What's that?
The art was by Trad Moore.
Oh,
that his
yes.
art is insane.
But the art goes with the story
It does.
in a way that I've never seen anything work together. It's hard to explain.
Yeah.
But the
It's
way those two-
reality bending. I think that's the best way to describe
Yeah,
it.
I'll go with that.
Yeah.
The two, like the way they connect, is so important that if you're gonna watch videos or look for like story recaps of anything, like that's fine, but don't do it with Silver Surfer Black. Actually read the 5 issues. It's a
Yeah.
fast read. You could probably read it in like an hour if you get the trade.
Yep.
So enough of that.
Yeah, so those were our top 3 Marvel Cinematic movies that we really like. So did you guys want to go over anything else regarding the Marvel Cinematic Universe and where it's leading to or where it's going?
So without ruining some stuff from the WandaVision episodes, I have some theories of where it's going to head. And all I'm going to say is I don't know if legally they can include the Fantastic Four, but I feel like it'll start including the Fantastic Four. It's supposedly tying into the new Doctor Strange, and if it does, it makes perfect sense that the Fantastic Four will also, be included. But where I'd like to see it go, I'd like to see at least 2 more Black Panther movies. I know there's doing the one with Shuri, where she takes over the mantle, or is it a TV series they're doing? I think with her.
I can't remember.
Okay.
It's one
I
of
know
those.
they're doing something else with her, but I'd like to see that. Some more Black Panther, of course. I know I mentioned the King in Black a lot, and I know I said no more of this, but I'd like to see it actually lead into the King in Black events, even if it's like 10, 15 years down the road. Them just doing like build up and some side stories and some like big hitting like story arcs, but nothing that big, and all lead up to something that big. Of course, another Thor, which they're doing. I think it's called Love and Thunder, right?
Yeah.
And I'm excited for that. I would love to see them bring the X-Men and just do real justice to the X-Men movies, because those original
definitely.
3 X-Men movies, I thought they were great back in the day.
Yeah, they were so much fun to watch.
But not so much now. Now that we've seen what
No.
like, good superhero movies are, like, when I was a kid, I loved Batman Returns, and the original Batman. And then I realized that, what's his name? Tim Burton. The guy's probably never read a comic book in his life. And I'm not knocking Tim Burton, don't get me wrong. Nightmare Before Christmas, amazing movie. I'm partially saying that so Shelby doesn't slap me. I'm kidding. That look on her face. No, Tim Burton's great, but he shouldn't have been in charge of comic book movie. But like they were great back then. I catch a lot of flack for this, but like Batman and Robin and what was the other movie? The Val Kilmer and the
Batman Forever.
Yes, that was Val Kilmer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like those back then, like I liked them. I was young. I didn't know any better.
Yeah.
And actually take that back. Up until like The Dark Knight, or I'm sorry, Batman Begins and The Dark Knight and stuff. Like superhero movies weren't that great. Like the original Superman movies from the 80s, like they aged terribly. The Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies aged terribly. Andrew Garfield's movies aged terribly in comparison.
Yeah.
Like they're good for their time, and we can go back and watch them with some nostalgia and love them. But now let's compare them to what we've seen even in the last 10 years. Like let's not even count, the first 3 Iron Man movies.
Yeah.
As good as those were. Or actually, no, you know what? Let's compare them to those. Like the first couple that weren't that good. Or I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that weren't that good, but we're the start of this, where they were just starting to like, pick up speed on what they were doing. Those movies outshine most of those movies considerably.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think sorry to cut you off, but yeah, going into when the first Iron Man came out, I remember everyone was like, "Oh, great, like another, whack superhero movie."
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I remember anytime any superhero movie comes out, I'm like, okay, I'm down. Like, doesn't matter if it's gonna be bad or whatever. But I went to go see it, and all of a sudden, like, the word had spread out how good the movie was and how fun it was to watch the first Iron Man movie.
Yeah.
I probably watched it at least 3 times in the movie theaters. So that was that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah.
Getting into that.
But now, like, I've seen Batman Begins and The Dark Knight a ton of times. I love those
Yeah.
movies, but I love them because they're just really good movies. You know, like, let's take out the superhero part. They're just really
Yeah.
good movies.
Yeah.
But when you look at the first couple Iron Man movies, like, they're good movies, plus they're good superhero movies on top of it.
Mhm.
And the MCU just kind of continued that over and over, you know, and they kept that
Mhm.
going. So, but I don't know, some of those like early movies, like,
Yeah.
I remember watching Superman. Sorry, I know I'm getting off track, but like, I don't know, what's his name? Christopher Reeve.
Yeah.
Like, I remember people praising those movies when I was a kid and loving them, and just I didn't get it. Like, you know, they were cool, but I didn't get the praise.
Yeah. It was probably because it was an older time period, but I still enjoyed them watching them growing up, but definitely not right now.
I was gonna say, yeah, but could you watch it?
No.
Yeah, I don't think I could. I don't think I could watch them and enjoy. You know, even
Yeah.
just one of them. I don't know if I could sit through it.
Right.
You know, but
Now
now
that
let's. Oh, sorry, go on.
Now that we got a taste of what MCU and Disney can do together.
Exactly.
I mean, look at Spider-Man. It was Sony's. And next thing you know,
Yeah.
Disney and MCU has the rights to
Uh-huh.
him. Well, not all of the rights,
Mhm.
but they rewrit him really well, especially with
Mhm.
Tom Holland, especially with these new characters. And this is how Spider-Man supposed to be. Not
Mhm.
not not
Goofy.
like a skater.
Yeah,
Huh?
not goofy like.
Exactly.
Well,
Like no,
Tom Holland's goofy. I'm sorry,
Tom.
but Tobey Maguire's like, he's a different kind of goofy.
Yeah.
I think I like Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker. He played
I'm
Peter
gonna
Parker
end.
very well.
How do I end this call? No, I love those movies. Don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
but they're so bad in like
Yeah, they're pretty cheesy.
like when you compare them to like what like the way they do things now.
Yeah.
You know, opposite of Star Wars actually.
Mhm.
You know, Star Wars has aged like milk, and well, I'm sorry, the new movies have aged like milk in such a short time, where these originals are just absolute classics.
Fine
that,
wine.
you
Yeah.
know, even with all these like weird cuts and things that George Lucas just had no idea what he was doing.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what that man was thinking when he did some of these edits and some of these, you know, changes, but
Mhm.
hell, I'll still watch like Greedo say McClunky a million times, you know, before I'd ever watched, you know, the Superman movie, or, you know, Batman with what's his name? Michael Keaton again.
Yeah.
You know. Oh God. Please tell me you guys get the McClunky reference.
I think so.
You know, the whole Han and Greedo, like, who shot first?
Yeah.
Boggle, yeah.
Well, this wasn't George Lucas actually who did this, but when they put it on Disney, they wanted to make it look like Greedo shot first, so Han didn't
Right.
just randomly kill someone, because Han's supposed to be like the good guy,
Yeah.
even though he's literally a smuggler, which is the
He's a
opposite
scumbag.
of a good guy. Yeah,
Mhm.
he's a
Yes.
scumbag who bails,
Yeah.
you know, on the Rebel Alliance and leaves them to die, you know, and comes back last minute out of guilt. But anyway, when they're talking and having their exchange, they edited in the scene where I think it's a new actor wearing Greedo's mask, and it looks like it doesn't fit in, and he says McClunky, and then he
Mm.
shoots at Han, and then Han shoots him and kills him. And when he shoots him, Han's head like kind of shifts out of the way,
Yeah.
and so it misses, but it looks like, instead of like a natural human movement, like the digital editing just like moved his head to the side of it, and it looks really cheesy and really bad.
Yeah,
you know, but that is still better than episodes 1, 2, and 3. It like I would much rather watch that than episodes 1, 2, and 3 any day.
Yeah.
Like we're gonna have to have a whole episode dedicated to why I don't like episodes 1, 2, and 3. But I can sum it up to midichlorians.
We'll have a Star Wars episode.
Yeah, I don't want to turn this into a 4-hour episode because I'm just
it's
gonna rant about these movies. Like Brian Posehn said it best. Like, this is my Vietnam.
Yeah.
Like when you talk about those old movies.
Yeah, exactly. So, in regards to the MCU and where you would like to see it go,
yeah, I got really off track. Sorry.
Oh, no worries. was that pretty much it, or you want to shoot it off to Shelby?
Well, just in short, kind of what I was getting at, I guess, was seeing things like the X-Men. You know, even though they were good then, they aged terribly. I'd like to see what these guys,
what Marvel could do.
Yes, like what they've done with these movies now. And I'm not a huge Fantastic Four fan. I know I'm gonna probably get hate at some point for that. But I'd watch a Fantastic Four movie. Like, I'd be the first in line, at the theater if Marvel did it. Same with Ghost Rider.
Oh yeah. I would love to see them do Ghost Rider.
Like there's so many characters that need to be done, by these guys. Like the guys who made the MCU. Like, I don't mean just the company. I mean, get all those guys back, who are responsible for these, and just reboot the X-Men. Like, reboot the X-Men, reboot Fantastic Four, reboot Ghost Rider. Venom, please, Venom.
Yeah.
Please, like, if there's anybody I might love a little more than Spider-Man, it's Venom. And that's arguable in my I argue with myself with that, the way Eddie Brock argues with the Venom symbiote. So yeah, that's all I want to say about that. So go ahead, Shelby. Where do you like to see the MCU head?
Basically similar to what you're saying. I want the X-Men redone, just in its entirety, because the way they did it, it was all over the place. The timeline was all over the place. And I want to see MCU and Disney, because it's Disney, to redo that. And somehow tie in Deadpool, because those movies are actually really good.
You know what? To touch on what you're saying, the Deadpool movies are probably the only non-MCU movies that were great.
Yeah, I agree.
Exactly.
And I mean, I feel like in 20 years, we'll look back on those Deadpool movies and be like, you know what? Those were awesome.
Yeah, they're definitely fun.
Yeah. But anyway, go on. Sorry, finish what you're saying.
Because in the X-Men movies, also keep Ryan Reynolds, because he's actually really, really, really good at the playing Deadpool, because they kept him from Wolverine. I can't remember which Wolverine. I know that they, if I remember correctly, they tested on him. They shut his mouth up, and his swords were in his arms. I didn't understand that. It was terrible. And they brought him back, and they did his own movie, and that was funny. He broke the fourth wall. He was talking. He was just amazing. And I want them to do that, but maybe not rated R, unless Deadpool's really meant to be rated R.
I think there could be some rated teen. Well, I'm thinking like game terms, but some non-rated R Deadpool moments that would be good. Like, Chris, you read the Deadpool tie-in. It was probably one of the more tame Deadpool issues.
It was, yeah.
And it was great. Like, there were some moments where I was cracking up.
Oh yeah, that was such a fun read.
Comedy. And he breaks the fourth wall, of course. He makes his stupid jokes, and there's some humor.
He makes jokes of himself in other movies,
exactly. Green Lantern.
Like Green Lantern, yeah.
Yeah. No, but I'm talking in that King in Black issue.
Right, yeah.
The way he breaks the fourth wall, and He's
Yeah.
making, typical Deadpool jokes and stuff, but it wasn't what I would consider like if you were to put that on screen, it wouldn't be rated R.
Right.
So Deadpool can definitely be that and still be just as funny and just as good. And there are other moments in other issues, back in the day that have done that. But that crude, like
Nobody does it better than Deadpool.
over the top humor that just needs to be rated R. Yeah, it's great with Deadpool.
Yeah.
Nobody does it better than him. As he mentioned before, Venom is definitely into the MCU with Tom Holland.
Who do you want to see play Venom?
That's the thing. Like, I
Or
don't
Eddie
know.
Brock.
Eddie Brock, yeah. That's the thing. Like, I have no idea. I have no idea who would make a good Eddie Brock.
I would pick like a new actor, probably like a not very
Mortensen.
well-known actor.
Viggo Mortensen.
I can see that.
Viggo
But,
Mortensen. From Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Oh my god,
Aragorn.
why am I forgetting his name? Aragorn.
Why am I drawing
My
a blank
king.
on that?
My king.
Why am I drawing a blank on that?
Are you really drawing a blank on Aragorn?
Yes.
He's the only hot dude in Lord of the Rings. Next to Orlando Bloom.
All right, well, then.
And Gimli. It goes Gimli, Aragorn, and then Orlando Bloom.
I can look that up later.
Yeah, but Viggo Mortensen with blonde hair, he might be able to do it.
You know
I don't know, I'm
what?
just kind of throwing that out there. Because he can look like so many different people. He's one of the few actors, I think, that can just literally play anybody. Because, I don't know, he has that face that, with the right makeup, he can look like anybody.
Yeah.
Okay, and besides like X-Men and Venom, I know we're watching WandaVision. I know they're in the make of that. And I know they tapped into some of her powers into Avengers Age of Ultron when she was the villain at one point. I want to see them tap more into her power. She's a lot stronger than that. And we've seen it.
Yeah, they made her very weak
a lot stronger than that
in the actual MCU movies. And they're actually showing her powers off a little more in WandaVision.
And it's fantastic. We can talk about that later, but just I want to see more of her and her power and what she can do too.
When we went back and I remember during the quarantine, you and I went back and we rewatched a bunch of those movies. One of the conversations I remember us having was how we felt like Scarlet Witch was stripped down and was relatively weak in comparison, to what she's capable of. I remember we had that specific conversation.
Because she can get into their minds. She can alternate anybody's mind, and we've seen that. We've seen how she went. Who was it? Was it Captain America or was it Iron Man's head? I think it was Iron Man.
Hawkeye.
Hawkeye's, yes.
Iron Man, almost all of them.
Yeah, and she made them see destruction, death.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Thor
they took that. Huh?
Was it Thor's head she got into?
I know it was.
Or who got into Thor's head? When he saw oh my god, why am I drawing a blank on his name?
When he saw one of the gems, I think.
Not that. When he saw like the death in Asgard, and he saw. Oh my god, Idris Elba's character.
Heimdall?
The guy who, what's his name?
Yeah.
Heimdall.
Heimdall. There you go.
Yeah.
Next time, remind me to not drink beer or drink before. Yeah, when he saw like Heimdall laying there dead, and you know what? I know we're not talking about spoilers, but this movie came out like 5 years ago. If you haven't seen it, it's your own fault. And I'm not giving any specific detail. Well, kind of, but anyway, was that him or her? I'm sorry, who got in his head right when he saw that?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
So yeah, so it was Thor. Yeah.
And
Okay.
I think she calls it. I think she says she hexed them. I think that's what it was. We only seen that one time. Where's the rest of it? Where else does that go? They're just wasting her character away. And like, don't get me wrong, WandaVision's great, but we need to see more of her power.
I'm guessing maybe they're not showing so much of her power right now in order to make such a bigger impact when they do when she completely breaks down. I
Yeah.
think that's what they're waiting for.
Because I feel like we're gonna see the fall of Scarlet Witch at the end of.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
Not like she's gonna
WandaVision.
die, but we're gonna
Yeah.
see her just completely lose her mind
Yeah.
and have to come full circle, or just
Mhm.
completely be out there and just
Yeah.
like
Well, if you guys
completely
have
lost it.
if you guys get a chance to read House of M, you could you might be able to guess what might happen at the end of WandaVision if you guys get a chance.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can get to House of them eventually. It'll probably end before I get to House of them. You've seen my collection. I have way too much stuff to read.
Yeah, you got to speed read.
Yeah. Yeah, the other day, I think on my day off, I read I think it was 15 issues. And
Not bad.
I was tired by the end of it. It was just
Yeah.
man, this took a lot out of me, all these ups and downs and emotions
Yeah.
and stuff going
Yep.
yeah.
Well, was
Usually I
there
read,
anything else?
oh.
Oh, sorry.
Was that all?
No,
for
there's
you?
more.
No, for you,
Oh.
that you want to talk about that
Yeah.
where you
Like
want
what I
to
wanna
see the
see.
MCU go? Yeah.
Oh, definitely
Yeah.
Doctor Strange.
More Doctor Strange, or you just want to see the next movie?
More.
Oh, actually, one thing I want to mention, I want to see this Black Widow movie.
Yeah.
Oh
this thing
yeah.
was supposed to be out almost a year ago, and
Yeah.
I'm starting to care less because it's, I just feel like it's not gonna happen.
It's just
at
been
this
a
point.
while. Yeah.
But it's just put it out already. Just throw it up on Disney Plus. I'll pay $30. We'll watch it.
Yeah.
I'll hate that I paid $30 for it, but I'll like it.
Yeah.
But I don't expect it to be in a theater anytime soon, and that magic is gone for it. Let me just watch it at this point.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, your turn now that we've gone on tangents and tangents about this.
Oh yeah, no worries. All right. So for me, I haven't really looked into what a lot of the movies are coming out in the near future, because I usually try my best to save all those spoilers or theories of what's going to come out next. I just want to just surprise me. I don't want to know anything, so the impact is going to be a lot better. But I have came up with a few theories, or where I want the Marvel Cinematic Universe to go to, and that the main one I'm guessing, which I might have seen not an advertisement, but they've talked about it, which is the Secret Wars event. I think that might be the next big event that they might try to do, which makes sense for them to bring it. If any of you guys watched the Spider-Man animated series, that was one of the first crossovers they had with a bunch of different superheroes, where they had guest appearances in the episodes, and then leading up to the Secret Wars event at the end of the series. And that brought in the Fantastic Four, the X-Men, Iron Man, and a few other characters that teamed up to fight the I believe the Beyonder, but the villains on that side. So I think if they do that, that would be very well done. For example, if they bring in the Fantastic Four, I'm hoping that they do bring in Doctor Doom. I would love to see Doctor Doom in
the MCU. Bring in Doctor Doom would be awesome.
Yeah, Doctor Doom, even Galactus. I don't know how they would do that, but oh my god.
Don't get me started on seeing Galactus introduced.
Yeah.
And I don't want to ruin anything, but
yeah,
there's something you and I have both read that involves Galactus. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to see that.
Yeah, that's what I want to see. Also.
That's what I want to see, and that's all I'm gonna say. Shelby, if you're confused, I will explain it later, with no spoilers. Because I don't want to spoil it for anybody who may listen to this, but
Mhm.
oh man, Chris, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And
Yeah,
to see that
exactly.
come to life would be amazing.
I would love that.
Sorry,
I
go
think
on though.
I think with the Silver Surfer character also, if he had his own standalone movie, I think that would be amazing. Um, and I think the WandaVision series might be the gateway to introducing the mutants.
Yeah.
Because if what I'm wondering is how they'll do that, because it's what happens in the comic book series or event does something the complete opposite of what I'm probably gonna try to say that might happen at the end of the series, which is WandaVision, or well, not WandaVision, but Scarlet Witch possibly creating new mutants, like bringing
That would be really interesting.
like her breakdown will affect humans and all of a sudden give them mutant powers or abilities and whatnot.
Do you think possibly it's going to be the humans that she has under her control?
The people in Westview?
Yeah.
That could be a possibility, but I think her breakdown might affect what the multiverse of madness will bring about, and I think it'll bring in new characters from those different
so you think it'll
multiverse, I
even
guess.
beyond her powers are gonna
Affect
have devastating effects beyond Westview?
Possibly. I mean, that's going kind of wild and you know, just theorizing, but that could be a possibility.
Yeah, but this is all about going wild with the MCU.
Yeah. And also I know they also announced this, which is Blade. I hope they do that movie justice, because I love the Blade character. And watching
Did
the
original not do them justice.
No, he definitely did,
cool,
especially the first one. Yeah,
but
I love the first Blade series or Blade movie.
Those kind of fit into like what I was saying earlier. Like they were cool for back then, but like they don't hold up. You know, as like if the MCU didn't exist, they would hold up. But
yeah,
there's other movies like the original Punisher with Dolph Lundgren.
Yeah,
that didn't hold up a week after it came out. It didn't hold up a day after it came out. You know, the movie was awful. You know, it's like it's funny to watch.
Yeah.
And I'll watch it again because it's so bad. But
yeah,
like it was never a good movie.
no.
You know, but you know, those Blade movies were good back then, but you know, when you compare them to the MCU now, like no.
Yeah. The possibilities of seeing that done well is definitely there.
Yeah, exactly.
But going back to the X-Men series that they'll hopefully eventually put out, if they do that, I would love to see them do the Sentinel Saga. I would just, you know, I think they not teased it, but they did show a little bit of it in one of the other older X-Men movies, which I don't think you guys have seen yet, which was Days of Future Past. Have you guys seen that movie at all?
I have not.
I have.
I gave up on the X-Men movies after the third one.
Okay, so you need to give it
any of those because they were
you need to give
bad.
it a shot, because those were the I think the best X-Men movies, which was Days of Future Past, and I love First Class as well, and I think that's and Logan. Yeah, oh my god,
we were supposed to meet up and watch Logan and we never did.
Yeah, I know, I'm still waiting.
Pandemic.
Hey, to be fair, one, pandemic, two, it was summer and it was like really hot and I just didn't want to do anything but like sit in my car in the AC and read comics.
Oh, you should have came over. I have nothing but AC at our place. So
I know.
Yeah.
But
but like, yeah. Freaking lazy bastards.
Yeah. I can sit on my own bed, or I can sit in my car 5 feet from my bed.
Yeah. But yeah, like I would love to see the Sentinel Saga with the X-Men, and going back to what you wanted to see with Venom, if they go with the original story of the Secret Wars, that's where they had the first appearance of the symbiote.
Yeah, the black suit.
Yeah, exactly. So if they go with that and they introduce the symbiote that way, I think that'd be great to lead into a story arc like King in Black eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I can
But-
get behind that.
Yeah,
I think that'd
but
be
yeah,
a really interesting option.
that's pretty much where I would like the cinematic universe to go to next for phase. Was it phase 4
No,
or 5?
5, I believe. No.
Yeah.
Is it? Yeah, it's 4.
I think it
It's
was
4.
phase
I'm sorry.
4.
Well, we're
Mhm.
currently in phase 4 with
Yeah,
the last Spider-Man, WandaVision, Doctor Strange, the
Mhm.
the Falcon and Winter Soldier,
yeah,
Black Widow, and something else. I feel like I'm missing one. Anyway. But anyway, I think it's about that time we should be wrapping things up.
yeah. Sounds good. So so I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast, our very first podcast show. We look forward to putting these out weekly. The next topic that we're going to be talking about for our next episode will be if you can pick 5 superheroes, doesn't matter whether they're from Marvel, DC, Image, or anywhere. You could put 5 heroes together to defend the world. Who would you pick and why?
Can I
So
pick
that's
5 different Spider-Men?
Yeah, if you want.
Like Peter Parker, Miles Morales, Spider-Man Noir,
Spider-Ham.
2099, and Spider-Ham.
And Spider-Man, yeah, we'd definitely be protected for sure.
Okay, I just want to be sure because coming out the gates with something good like that,
Nice.
I'm definitely
But
gonna come
yeah.
with something a little more creative.
But yeah, that'll be our topic for the next episode. And just a reminder, guys, we do have a Instagram. If you guys want to follow us on daily posts of what we collect and what we like to show off, just follow us at comiXalliance on Instagram, and that's spelled COMIXALLIANCE, and that's this one right here. If you guys could see right there. So yeah, that's about it, guys. Do you guys want to do any closing statements or anything?
Just if you have any questions, feel free to post them on our Instagram. Send us a message directly. We're most likely going to upload this to YouTube. Leave some comments, and yeah, we'll get back to those on the next. Or well, I'm sorry, we'll answer those on the next episode or next issue. Yeah. So thanks again, guys, for taking a little bit to listen to us ramble and talk about nonsense and comics. That's it for me.
Okay.
Good. All right. Thank you, guys. Have a good night.